Apparently PTA is a association name that we're not gonna get in trouble for calling our group that. So we're just calling it parent-teacher group. But they wanna set up a group with a fundraising, or dues in the trust and agency account where they can put money. Melissa Hayes has volunteered to be the staff member in charge of that group, working with the parents and other teachers. So we just need to approve adding that account within the trust and agency account for the parent-teacher group.
Need a motion and a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.4, board policy manual.
Where,
Oh,
right,
8.3,
okay.
board member handbook discussions.
Okay, so we've had this on our agenda quite a few times. And again, I'm coming back to the board to show you, and it's in your packet. This is the document that the Associated School Board puts out as a school board member handbook. It's pretty thick. Lots of stuff in there, and it's all for the benefit of the school board member, for training purposes, things you should do, things you probably shouldn't do. And so again, I would ask the board that we adopt this as our board policy handbook instead of our little 7-page one that we have. Comments, questions, concerns?
Is this the one that most schools adopted?
Yeah, this is the one that they have on their website, and this is the one that they base all of their training modules and things after. Everything that you see from them comes out of this board member handbook.
So is that something you go through piece by piece to make sure it fits our district?
That would be up to you guys if you want to, but it's very general in nature. It's basically any school board member across the state can pick this up and read it and decide, yes, this is something I should do or something I shouldn't do. So it's very general in nature as far as school board members are concerned. So I mean, we could, but I don't really feel that there's a need to do that.
Need a motion and a second for approving the board member board member handbook. Is that what you want to do?
Yes, please. Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.4, board policy manual.
Okay, so what we've decided to do, just so everybody knows, we've hired the Associated School Boards of South Dakota to work through with the policy committee, which is Kelly and Ryan. We're working with Associated School Boards and their attorney, Gary Kaufman, to start with the process of reviewing the policies that we have and updating them. And what we will do with that is I have sent him all board policy books that we've had, including the stuff that Mr. Barrios did when he was here that was related directly to school board members and school board meetings and all that stuff. I've sent student handbooks, I have sent master contract with our education association, and he's in the process now of reviewing all that information and trying to come up with how that fits into their system with their policies that they have that they help and guide school boards with. So throughout the course of the next year, we'll be reviewing lots of policies and making some changes to our board policy manual. And it really does need to be updated and reviewed. So just information for this part of the agenda.
Has he gotten back to you at all?
He hasn't. I sent the stuff about 3 weeks ago, right after the last board meeting, so he's had it for about 3 weeks.
8.5, Faulkner report card data.
Okay, I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on this, because I really feel that it's important to get this information out there. The first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have Mr. Cassens go to the Department of Ed's website. any report card data for any school in the state of South Dakota, whether it be an elementary school, a colony school, a high school, district things, are all located on the Department of Ed's website. If you go to their main page and scroll down, you'll see halfway through the middle there, there's a little bar, a little bubble that says report card. If you click on it, it says find your school, and you can just go in and you can type in any school, or you can click on the stuff below. But up pops Fulton, and if you just type in or click any of those, it will take you to the information that we're going to share with you as this meeting progresses. I'm going to make sure it's the same. And it probably isn't exactly the same, but it provides a lot of data. So Craig, if you go back now to board docs and go to the district one, I'm going to talk through this. I really feel that we spend a lot of time in board meetings and we talk about a lot of different things. This is one thing that the board's really responsible for, along with the budget and hiring and firing the superintendent. And so if you go to the first one that Craig's going to show, and that's going to be the district report card. This is a little bit different report than what's on the website, but it really tells you a lot of good information. And so I'm going to share this. And Val, if you want me to print these off for you later, I can, or you can go ahead and print them off too if you want to put them in the paper. But what this does, this is the whole district, and it shows how many students we have, their ethnicity breakdown, and if we have kids that are economically disadvantaged or English learners, foster care, homeless, the whole 9 yards. It tells us how many teachers we have, the administrators that we have. It talks about student performance, and that's the part that I want to spend a lot of time on tonight talking about. If you go through that, in our district, the big dark orange bars are what the state scored on average, and the lighter bars are what our students scored. So for example, in English Language Arts, the state average was 54%, our score was 69%, and that's the number of students that are proficient in those areas. Math, 46 at the state, 56 for our students. Science was 40% proficient, we were at 51% proficient. And then it has another area of student progress. It talks about our English language learners, which are our Hutterite colony students, how many of them were on track, and that type of thing. And I'll show you more specific data on those schools later. Our attendance rate was 100%. Our chronic absenteeism rate was 2%, which I'm not sure how they figured that out. You'll see that our high school completion rate was a little bit below the state average at 87%. The state average is 90%. And that could be just the difference of one student maybe not completing in 4 years. They really go with 4-year cohorts. If you don't finish in 4 years, it counts against you. So overall, district-wide, we did really, really well. Craig, you want to go to the next one? And I'm going to go fast through these, you guys. I'm going to try to share some things with you that I really feel it's important. The thing on it I don't like is it doesn't show our overall score, Craig. Yes, it does. In the schools, it does down below. All right, so this is Fulton Elementary School. And this is going to get really dry and boring. And I'm not going to spend time on all the numbers, but if you see there, the state average, they have the district average, then on the top bar, the blue is the state, the light orange is our students. So you'll see a big gain from 54% to 74% of our elementary students are proficient. You'll see the same large gain in math, and you'll see a big gain in science. So that's all really good information for our elementary students. If you go down below to the very bottom, you'll see that there's a big 83 right there. That's 83 points out of a possible 100. And in the elementary schools, those items that are there, student performance, student progress, attendance, is all figured into that overall score. And we got 83.3 points out of 100. So that's the elementary school. And I'm going to go through all of these just so everybody can see it. Junior high. This one is not quite what I would like it to be, but it's not terrible. English Language Arts, we were above the state average. Math, we were above by just a little bit. And our science scores we did not do very well in science compared to the state average. We were at 27% proficient compared to 40% at the state. And if you go down below, we got a 58 out of 100. And the area that we did not do well in was student progress. Our student performance was pretty good, but our actual progress from one year to the next wasn't good at all. And so that's the junior high school. High school now, you will see that our ELA, English Language Arts, was at an 89% proficient compared to 54 with the state. Math was at 50% compared to 46 at the state. And our science was at 61 compared to 40 at the state. Now when you get to the high school level, they also throw in high school completion rate and college and career readiness. And you'll see that the state average for that was only 48%, but we were at an 81%, which means our students are college and career ready when they leave Faulkton High School. And you'll see that they scored an 87 out of a 100, which is really good. Anytime you hit that high 80s, low 90s, you're doing pretty well. I'm going to go through the colony report cards really fast. I was really impressed with our colony schools. Let's go to Brentwood. Brentwood Colony, the state average was 54. They were at 75% proficient in English Language Arts. Math, 46 at the state, 58 out at the colony. And then their overall score at the very bottom was a 75 out of a 100, which student progress was a little bit down, but everything else, the progress with their ELL kids, their students that are learning English, was very, very good. So 75 out of 100 is really good. Thunderbird, a lot of the same as Brentwood, 75% proficient in English Language Arts compared to 54 at the state level, 69% proficient in math compared to 46 at the state level. And if you go down on the bottom again, they scored a 72 out of a 100. And again, it's student progress one year from the next. The growth in between those years wasn't the greatest, but attendance was great. Their English language learner progress was really, really great at 8.5 out of 10 or 85%. The last one that I'm going to share with you is Blumengard. Blumengard scores were quite a bit lower, if you see here. Their proficiency in ELA was only 31% compared to 54 at the state level. Math was only 13 compared to 46% at the state level. They scored a 62 out of a 100, and you'll see the two areas that they kind of were short on was student performance and student progress. So those are all the report cards for our district. The one thing that I will assure you is I've already talked to Mr. Cassens a little bit about junior high. We will be exploring and investigating some reasons why maybe our students didn't perform as well as maybe they should have. And we will also have that conversation with the teachers out at Blumengard Colony to maybe try to figure out why their scores were as low as they were. So we will come up with some interventions and some strategies obviously to try to get that fixed and the ship uprighted by the time we take the state test again at the end of this school year. Comments or questions from anybody from the school board? It's a lot of stuff, and I can actually break all of these things down and pull up each individual student to see how each student performed on the test. So if you want to see if there was a group that didn't do well on standard 7, 8, or 9, we can find that out. So it's pretty amazing what we can do with the data. This is just very general stuff that the public can find out, and stuff that I wanted to share with everybody that was here tonight. So that's all I have for that.
9.1 superintendent.
Okay, my report. Okay, just an update on the school webpage. just so everybody knows, you know, the website is not the greatest right now, but I want everybody to know that we are working on it. I've been meeting with Mr. Demery, and he has a student that's actually doing a student internship. We've been meeting once a week for the past couple of weeks, and trying to prioritize items that we would like to have on there sooner rather than later. And so some items have been added and some things have kind of changed as far as the content on the webpage. And we will work on it as quickly as we can to try to make sure we get the information on there so that people that are looking for things can go find things. Right now, there's a lot of places that are blank. And so we're going to work to get those areas fixed and information out there to the public, things that are very user-friendly. And the website, you know, across the top, there's a lot of tabs that if you go to them, they scroll down, and you can get to a lot of different things on there. And it just takes some time, but we're going to try to get that rectified as soon as we can. Number 2 on my report, there are some things that we have to meet as far as state accountability. And we got emails last week, I believe, Lisa, that there's a teacher accountability requirement, and what that means is when the Blue Ribbon Task Force met and they increased the sales tax to be put toward teacher salaries, we had to basically have that money go toward teacher salaries and give raises to teachers. And we had to meet certain requirements to make sure that we were doing that. We could not go backwards in our teacher pay. We had to either stay the same or go forward. And so we met that accountability requirement. And another requirement that was put on us is that in the past, before all this happened, there were a lot of school districts that had very, very large cash reserves. They were taking some of the money, they were putting it away and saving it for a rainy day. Excessive amounts of rainy day funds. And that made people at the state mad because guess what we were complaining about? You don't give us enough money. We need more money to do things with our staff. And so some of us were doing it while some other schools were putting money away for a rainy day and still complaining that you're not giving us enough money. So it made everybody kind of look bad. So the state legislature, they passed some rules, and we did meet that accountability. So we have to be at, I think, 30%, Lisa, is that correct? And so we're at that, and we can't go above that. So we met that accountability.
Below that.
We're below it, right?
So, any
We're
amount,
below it.
Yeah.
You can't go.
We can't, yeah,
any
can't go
amount,
below it.
any amount above that, I mean, you could go, if there's something happens, isn't there a board you can appeal to, or is that what happens?
Yeah. You can feel that.
And if they don't approve it, you have to go back dollar for dollar state aid.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's a teacher accountability board you can go back to too in case, I mean, if you have extenuating circumstances. Number 3,
They changed that penalty though.
they did or
If
didn't?
you don't meet the teacher accountability, you get fined $500.
$500,
For
yeah.
each, yeah,
Yeah, so it's not a whole
which
lot.
isn't really.
It's not a whole lot. But, number 3, accreditation update. Back last spring in April, Mr. Cassens and I, we submitted loads and loads of documents to the State Department of Education. We're currently Advanced Ed accredited, which is a big national accreditation process that we went through with a team of teachers, and they bring a review team on site, and they look at things that we do. We're still actually Advanced Ed accredited. Well, the state, for whatever reason, they honor that accreditation. They decided to switch their state accreditation cycle and switch things around. We weren't supposed to be due up for another year or 2, I can't remember, 2 years I think. And they switched it and moved us ahead a year. So we had to do it basically last year in April. And so, like I said, Mr. Cassens, I submitted 47 or 57 documents the initial time. They came back and said, well, these areas aren't good enough, so we submitted some more information. And they said it's still not good enough. So October 14th, I had to submit an action plan with 4 items that we had to fix. Those items were sent in. 2 of them have already been fixed, and I'm waiting to hear back this week, hopefully, from the Department of Ed to make sure that our accreditation goes through. That's being taken care of as well, just so everybody knows that. On October 1st, Jerry and I, we attended the Associated School Boards of South Dakota region meeting. I've been to it several times, Jerry and I went to it last year, but again, they go over a lot of the services that they provide, they talk about legislative issues that come up, or that are going to come up. What else did they talk about, Jerry, is am I covering it all?
Well, the one hot topic was the capital outlays.
Yeah, we're gonna have a cap on our capital outlay as part of that blue ribbon task force that I talked about earlier. And there's a lot of other items that we're gonna have to probably talk about at our next meeting before we send our delegate to delegate assembly.
When does BJ go?
November 15th,
So that's after our next board meeting.
yes.
So we should put that, all the board members gotta read what they are voting on. And
The positions.
The positions and see if we all agree to give BJ official position.
On what he needs to do.
We ain't counting by number.
If we're not counting. So then, let's see, number 5, I believe I'm on. Let's see, when was that? September 17th, Mr. Cassens and I took part in a free webinar that covered opioid antagonist administration, which is, people might maybe have heard of the term Narcan. A lot of our law enforcement officers carry it in their vehicle. And what it is, it's all the painkillers that people are abusing. And it's the, what do you call it, the remedy, the fix, it gets them out of their,
Reverses the overdose.
it reverses the overdose. Schools now, because of a state law that was passed, is we actually could have it here at school in case we need to administer it to a student or staff, I suppose. Could be a staff member too, or a parent that walks in. But the first part of the process was to attend that webinar. The webinar was pretty annoying. It was crazy, but we got through it. And so now I'm going to work with our local law enforcement, with Brent Cones, and we're going to talk about how we want to work on that. And there's some things that we have to do. We can actually order the drug. We have to have a policy in place, so it's going to take a while. But again, I just wanted the board to know that Mr. Cassens and I did attend that training. And obviously, Brent's been through it as well, and we're going to work with him to see if we can get some things figured out with that, just to kind of help out in case we need to do it. Our owner meeting, our next owners meeting is this Thursday, October 17th. BJ and Scott McLeod are on that committee with the board. And usually it's myself, it's Jeanette, Mr. Demery's been going for technology things, and Mr. Cassens. And so we meet out in their trailer, we have that meeting at 10 o'clock, and they basically give us an update on where they're at, what's going on, and I'll include some of those items in the building update that's coming later from the last one. And then just so the board knows, I'll be out of town on Wednesday, I have a doctor's appointment in Mobridge, and that is really the only, that other last sentence shouldn't be, that's from the last report, but that's the only time I think I'm gonna be out of the district this month unless I go out to a colony school. So that is all that I have for my report.
10.1, secondary principals report.
Does anything come up, Mr. Cassidy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little slow, not as bad as the webinar in terms of,
That is bad.
it's good information, it was just tough to follow. Okay, a couple things I wanna bring up. First, I can't say this enough about homecoming. I had people from out of town, and when I go to other, one of my region principal meetings, it's kind of a swear word among high school principals, homecoming, because a lot of us, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not something I always look forward to. But when I hear what's going on in other communities, other schools, and some of the headaches that some of these ladies and guys are dealing with, I feel very blessed to come back to our student body, because we've got just a great group of kids. I know they can get up to, some mischief here and there. It happens, right, Brent? But compared to where we've been in the past, props to our student body for the entire week last week. It was great. It's hard for me to say great and homecoming in the same sentence I just did. So, I want to thank the Faulkner Arts Council for everything they've done all year. Last month we had a speaker in that talked to grades 8 through 11, that's not 8 through 1, 8 through 11 on poetry. And this week on Thursday, Hoop Dancer Star Chief Eagle will be performing for grades 1 through 12, and that'll be in the afternoon. We'll get more information out on that, find out if the public's welcome to attend or not, and we will put that out in a school reacher on the website. And then first week of November, the Arts Council is also sponsoring a music artist to come in to work with our elementary students. It's been a week, last 2 weeks, not just with weather, but we had another speaker in, Justine Kogel, presented her tour of kindness to all of our students from K through 12. Mr. Lepke commented in his acknowledgments, Catholic Church, along with the Methodist Church. Catholic Church also allowed us to test our juniors with the aid of National Guard, the ASVAB test a few weeks back, and we'll be doing a PSAT test with our juniors this week. So again, those entities out in the community have really helped with our building project. Last couple things, just so that the public's aware and the board knows that we're still business as usual. Mrs. Milius attended the Fall Leadership Conference with 6 students, which is usually the early part of October. And Mrs. Weisler and myself will be meeting with 10th and 11th graders for personal learning plan modifications. There is a new program called Zello that used to be an SD My Life. We have just a little bit of a mix of a lot of different platforms for our personal learning plans. But basically what a personal learning plan is a pathway of what our students are going to take for courses, where their interests lie, where their skills and their aptitudes lie. And we just want to make sure that our students are always thinking about what's coming up ahead, the next semester, the next year, looking at colleges they could attend, what careers they're interested in, rather than one day in March where they get a piece of paper and they just sign up for classes that their friends are in. So Joellen and myself will be working with those students, specifically the 10th and 11th graders coming up. And that, unless there's a number 7 that's hiding from last time, and it's not, I don't have one of those.
I do.
I have no regular meetings on Wednesday to go with my doctor appointment, so. Any questions? Thank you.
I'll do that when the meeting's over, quick, just ask if you guys can work. It's not a big deal.
Okay, 11.1, building project update.
Okay, overall, building project's gone really well. Craig Kuckelberg, who is the project superintendent that's on site every day, is actually really easy to work with. If I have a concern or an issue, I get a hold of him and he deals with it. We had a bunch of construction workers that were smoking right out by the 6th grade entrance one day. I told him, he said it won't happen again, and I haven't seen him out there since. So just little things like that, I can go to him. We've developed a pretty good trust relationship to where he feels comfortable coming in and telling me something that I'm probably not gonna like, and he just knows that this is the way it's gonna be, and I know that's the way it's gonna be, and we've been working really well together. So, a few specifics. All the prefab concrete walls are poured and done. They're sitting out at Collins Colony. They were supposed to start erecting those this week, like today. But with all the snow and the wetness, they have to bring in a big crane and heavy concrete panels. We'll find out more on Thursday. My guess is it'll probably be next week. But they're done, and they were gonna start doing it. He said we're on track. All the foundations and footings have all been poured along the north side. Everything else is done. And if you ever want to just take a look and come up to the fence and kind of look, you can kind of see where all the building's gonna be at. Last week, they had some masons come in and put concrete block out kind of in the middle next to the old gym. And I was scratching my head, what in the world are they doing down there? That's the music room, the soundproof music room, to keep the sound in the music room. So if you want to see where the new music room's gonna be, just go out and look at the big walls that are there, that's the music room. And it was really confusing, because I had no idea what they were doing out there, but that's what it is. Our big issue right now, some of you are bundled up with scarves and coats in here, is heat. When we close these doors for executive session, my board members put their coats on, it got really chilly in here. There's no heat. The boilers are not working, they're not hooked up. So there's a boiler that basically supplies heat to the old gym, the shop area, the new gym, the weight room, the community center. Not ready to go yet. The boiler, the temporary boiler that they have down in the elementary school is down in the little crawl space kind of below my office. It's a smaller boiler, but that's actually one that when they're done heating for now and getting ready for next year, it's getting moved back to the mechanic room to be a backup boiler. But that sits up about 3 feet off the ground, and it's probably only about as big as, not even half of this table, maybe about a third of the table, and not even as wide as it's pretty small, but it's big enough to heat the elementary school. It's there. The plumbers have been here, and the heating and cooling guys were here today trying to get it hooked up. They're waiting for parts for it. Initially, we were told that we were going to have heat this week and the week before at our last meeting, and that it was going to be the elementary school that would have it first, and then the middle school, high school. But now that's changed to where this big building and the community center is supposed to have it first, but not until next week, and the elementary school won't be until the week of Halloween. And so, while you were sitting out there, you heard the rumble, and you looked over here, they set up temporary propane heaters, or construction heaters, that's supposed to blow hot air in, and it's supposed to kind of make its way and heat the shop area and the old gym. And when we have school going, it's hot enough in here with all the kitchen equipment that runs, it stays pretty nice and warm in here. And then they have one right across the way in the elementary school where they tore down the old building through their little area again that they built back up to keep the cold out. It's blowing hot air down the hallway. So if you stand by my office and Mary's office, you about sweat just standing there. And the hope is that that heat will radiate through the building and get in the rooms. Now, a lot of teachers are using electric heaters, little portable heaters in their rooms to keep it warm. But hopefully we'll only have to do that for another week or two, and hopefully it warms up a little bit. So right now, that's our biggest issue that we're dealing with. At our last meeting, they initially said that the project was about 3 weeks behind schedule. But they had figured that it was going to take about 4 weeks to put up the prefab walls. It's only going to take 2, and they had 4 weeks built in. So they gained 2 weeks back just by having it be done being done quicker. So I'm curious to see what they're going to say, how far they are behind when we get to Thursday's meeting. I'm sure they're behind, but as soon as the ground gets stabilized, they can bring the heavy trucks in. The crane, they're actually going to pull in the fenced-in area right here, and they won't block off the street. So the crane's going to be on the inside of the fence, and it'll be a big crane, and they'll be hoisting all the concrete walls in place. So I'm guessing that'll be a pretty big spectacle when that happens. So that should be soon. Their goal is to have the building, all the walls up. Hopefully the concrete slab for the floors will get poured, and a roof overhead before it gets too nasty with snow and winter weather. So we'll see if that can all get done in time. And again, we'll find out more, I'm sure, on Thursday, Scott and BJ, myself, and Craig, and Jeremy, and Jeanette. So, anything else, BJ and Scott, that you guys want to add or share that I missed? I mean, it's going pretty well. You know, we have to deal with every now and then some messes that they create. We had an issue when it rained last time, back in the shop area. They just basically tracked mud all in, and they did some work, and stuff got all over the desks, and they thought that today was a week ago, that we had a day off a week ago, a week earlier, and they were just gonna leave their stuff. And so I had to call I call the construction supervisor at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night sometimes. And he responds, and he was here early and got everything taken care of and cleaned up, and he's been really, really good to work with. So far, things are going pretty well.
Just other than the heat
Yeah.
being a lot later than I was.
Yeah, that's a big issue right now. But I did put out a letter through Mary in my office today, I wrote the letter. We do, believe it or not, still have kids that are coming to school with shorts and flip-flops on. And that doesn't help when things are kind of chilly anyway. So we kind of asked, hey, put some clothes on your kids, dress a little bit warmer in layers. They can always take some things off, but you can't put socks on if you're wearing flip-flops. You could, but you look kind of goofy. But it happens. So I did put that letter out today. Hopefully we'll get some cooperation and have kids that are dressed up in hoodies and long pants tomorrow when they come to school. So.
Okay, 11.2, approved change orders.
Okay, this is just something on here that, it's gonna be on here, I think now, starting from here on out on a regular basis. The board has to approve all change orders as they come in. And typically a change order is something that's pretty substantial in cost. Right now, the only things, and Scott and BJ, you're gonna have to help, I forgot, I didn't bring my last packet from the last owners meeting. But everything that's been done is either going out as RFPs that might be changes that will get changed later. But everything so far that has been changed has had to do with soil corrections. When they put, you know, the old building down and they started digging so they could pack dirt back in, there was some dirt that wasn't compacted, or it wasn't good dirt to be able to just work around. So they had to dig a lot of it out and put different dirt back in. It's actually been fairly expensive to do that, but that's coming out of our contingency that we already have built into the project, so it's not really costing the district any extra money. It's being taken care of through the contingency. There may be some items, if we decide that we're gonna upgrade the carpet, that would be a change order. The board would have to approve it before they went ahead and did it. The soil thing is really something that's been out of our control that we can't really control, so it's not really a change order. Scott, have you seen anything on there that would be considered?
No, then you had the carpet that we talked about, and then you had,
Yeah,
you had the sound system and that kind of stuff.
yeah, and that stuff that's went out for RFPs, not necessarily change orders. They're stuff that's already in the project that they're looking for RFPs for.
So is there something tonight?
There is not any for tonight.
Because I couldn't find it.
No, there isn't, but there will be. So that's it on that one.
12.1, open forum time.
Will you explain again how this negotiating is gonna work?
It was stated to us by our attorney that for legality reasons, a negotiation will be done in executive session with our attorneys. And then when there's a final product for us, the board to vote on, we will post it and let the public read it, and we'll give you an opportunity for you to comment on it
You're not gonna
before
vote,
we vote on
you're not gonna vote until we
it.
come.
Yes, we will not vote on it until.
So
we
once you've come up with a final product, if people come in here and are really not very happy, things can be changed?
Well,
Or you go back and negotiate again?
we may, I guess if the, depends how the board vote would go. I guess if it would fail, I guess you would have to go renegotiate until something's
So
figured out.
once you come up with the final outcome, if, you can still change it if you have to. In other words, you're gonna vote to approve it or vote not to approve it, right?
After the public has a chance to read it and give input, yes.
One more question. On your deal where you were talking, how many students are in our school system? 301, is that?
No, we're at, right now, I think we're, for this coming school year, we're at 333.
I haven't seen the final number
I
yet.
think
It's
we're three.
changed.
I got the final number in my
I
office,
just
but
seen
we're
something.
up by 30 students.
Ask how many actually walk through the door.
How many, but how many, is that the colonies too?
Yep,
So how many students do we have in Faulkner?
I would have to look that up, Dave, and find out for sure.
Well, I think it was
There's 333
28,
total.
28, it was 28 from one colony, 28 from one colony, and maybe 18 from the other, so that's about 70 some.
Yep,
So that means we got about 250, 240,
260.
yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere.
It's been changing weekly.
Pardon?
The
It
number's been
changes.
changing weekly, so hopefully we'll.
But we are up, we do have an increase of kids from last year.
The final number has to be submitted to the state in October, the end of October.
The last Friday in September, and it's already been submitted, so I can get you the exact
No,
number that I
that's
sent.
fine, I just seen, the colonies were 28, and I think
Yeah.
15 or something like that.
And I count them
I
as
seen the
as total
301.
because it's, I mean, we have, that's what we turn into the state. Whether they're colony or elementary kids, we have to account.
So we have right between 250 and 260 in,
Yeah,
in the local school. here.
yep. That's pretty
So
close.
what's that 310 there?
That 310 would be
That's last year's number.
last year's
last
number,
year.
including Colony,
Yep,
That includes the colony.
yep.
and that would be last year's numbers. Now,
So-
last year we graduated, what, 12, 13?
13,
And our kindergarten class this year is,
27.
so, yeah, it's, if you include our colonies, it's definitely higher than 310 right now.
Anybody else? Okay, need a motion and a second for adjourning the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So the only thing that I forgot, school board